The opening chapters of Genesis provide a foundational framework for understanding the origins of the universe, humanity's relationship with God, the introduction of sin, and the far-reaching consequences of human choices. The book of Genesis begins with the majestic account of creation. In 6 days, God speaks the cosmos into existence, creating light, the sky, land, plants, stars, animals, and humanity. The crowning achievement is the creation of humanity, Adam and Eve, made in the image of God. This divine image signifies humanity's unique capacity for relationship, reason, and stewardship over creation. God places Adam and Eve in the Garden of Eden, a pristine paradise where they experience perfect communion with Him. They are granted freedom to eat from any tree except the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. The tree serves as a test of their obedience and their ability to recognize their dependency on God. Tragically, Adam and Eve are tempted by the serpent to eat from the forbidden tree. Their disobedience results in the fall, a moment of profound consequence. Sin enters the world, bringing shame, separation from God, and an altered relationship with creation. The narrative illustrates the devastating impact of human rebellion and the entrance of suffering into the world. The aftermath of the fall reveals the immediate consequences of sin. Adam and Eve experience shame and are expelled from the garden. Pain, toil, and the eventual return to the dust from which humanity was formed become part of the human experience. However, God's mercy is also evident, as He provides clothing for Adam and Eve and promises future redemption. The narrative shifts to the story of Cain and Abel, Adam and Eve's sons. Cain, consumed by jealousy and anger, murders his brother Abel. This tragic event illustrates the escalation of sin and the need for justice. God's judgment on Cain underscores the seriousness of his actions while also extending a measure of mercy. The narrative includes genealogical records, tracing the lineage from Adam to Noah. These records highlight the long lifespans of early humans and the progression of generations. The focus is on the line leading to Noah, a righteous man in a corrupt world. As human wickedness grows, God determines to bring judgment upon the earth through a global flood. However, Noah finds favor in God's eyes due to his righteousness. God instructs Noah to build an ark to preserve his family and a remnant of animals. The flood serves as a profound event of divine judgment, cleansing the earth of corruption. After the floodwaters recede, God establishes a covenant with Noah, symbolized by the rainbow. This covenant promises that God will never again destroy the earth with a flood. The narrative emphasizes the enduring faithfulness of God despite humanity's propensity for sin. The opening chapters of Genesis establish the origins of creation, humanity, and the entrance of sin into the world. The fall illustrates the far-reaching consequences of disobedience, including shame, separation, and the introduction of suffering. The narratives of Cain and Abel highlight the destructive nature of sin and the need for justice and mercy. The story of Noah and the flood underscores God's judgment, mercy, and the establishment of a covenant with humanity. The first 8 chapters of Genesis provide a foundational understanding of the human condition, the consequences of sin, and the nature of God's interaction with His creation. Through stories of creation, disobedience, judgment, and covenant, this section sets the stage for the broader narrative of God's redemptive plan. It establishes themes that will resonate throughout the entire biblical text, shaping humanity's relationship with God and the unfolding journey of faith. The narrative of Genesis continues with chapters 9 to 16, exploring themes of covenant, faith, and the complexities of human relationships. These chapters showcase both God's faithfulness and humanity's struggles as the journey of redemption unfolds. Chapter 9 marks the aftermath of the flood, as Noah and his family emerge from the ark. God establishes a covenant with Noah and all living creatures, symbolized by the rainbow. The covenant promises that never again will the earth be destroyed by a flood. In the midst of this covenant, Noah's family experiences challenges, most notably, the incident involving Noah's drunkenness and the actions of his sons. Despite this, God's covenant remains firm, signifying His commitment to His creation. The Tower of Babel. The Tower of Babel narrative in chapter 11 depicts humanity's collective attempt to build a tower that reaches the heavens, reflecting their desire for self-glorification. God responds by confusing their languages, leading to the dispersion of people across the earth. This event highlights the consequences of human pride and the inherent divisions among people. The Call of Abram. Chapter 12 introduces Abram, later known as Abraham, who is called by God to leave his homeland and journey to a land God promises to show him. In this divine call, God also pledges to make Abram a great nation and bless all peoples through him. Abram's journey becomes a pivotal moment in the unfolding of God's redemptive plan. As Abram and his wife Sarai journey through the land of Canaan, they encounter a famine and temporarily seek refuge in Egypt. Fearing for his life, Abram asks Sarai to present herself as his sister, leading to a complex situation involving Pharaoh. God intervenes to protect Sarai and bring her and Abram out of Egypt. Chapter 13 focuses on the relationship between Abram and his nephew Lot. Their herds and flocks become so numerous that conflicts arise between their respective herdsmen. Abram, exercising wisdom and humility, allows Lot to choose his desired territory. Lot opts for the lush plains of Jordan, while Abram remains in the land of Canaan. In chapter 15, God reaffirms his covenant with Abram, promising descendants as numerous as the stars. Despite Abram's doubts, God demonstrates his faithfulness. In a significant covenant ritual, God walks through the severed animals, symbolizing his commitment to the covenant regardless of human performance. The narrative then introduces Hagar, Sarai's Egyptian maidservant, who becomes involved in Abram and Sarai's efforts to fulfill God's promise through human means. Hagar's encounter with God and her subsequent return to Abram's household highlight God's compassion and involvement in the lives of those often marginalized. Chapter 17 opens with God reaffirming his covenant with Abram, now Abraham, and extending the covenant to include not only Abraham, but also his descendants. God establishes circumcision as the physical sign of the covenant, signifying the separation of Abraham's lineage as a chosen people set apart for God's purposes. God reiterates his promise to Abraham and Sarah, foretelling the birth of a son. Abraham responds with a mixture of faith and skepticism, expressing both trust in God's power and amusement at the idea of a child in their old age. God's promise of a miraculous birth tests their faith and patience. Chapter 18 witnesses God's appearance to Abraham in the form of 3 visitors, revealing his plan to judge Sodom and Gomorrah due to their wickedness. Abraham intercedes for the cities, seeking to find righteous people to spare them from destruction. Ultimately, only Lot and his daughters are rescued before the cities are consumed by fire. God fulfills his promise, and Isaac is born to Sarah and Abraham in chapter 21. Sarah's laughter at the news of her pregnancy leads to Isaac's name, which means, he laughs. The birth of Isaac brings both joy and challenges, including tension with Hagar and Ishmael. Sarah insists that Hagar and Ishmael leave, leading to their departure and God's care for them in the wilderness. Chapter 22 presents one of the most profound tests of faith, the binding of Isaac. God instructs Abraham to offer Isaac as a burnt offering on Mount Moriah. Abraham's willingness to obey, even in the face of sacrificing his promised son, underscores his unwavering faith in God. At the last moment, God intervenes, providing a ram for the sacrifice. This event prefigures the concept of substitutionary atonement and serves as a pivotal moment in Abraham's journey of faith. Abraham's focus shifts to securing a wife for Isaac. He sends his servant to Abraham's homeland, Nahor, with specific instructions to find a wife from their own people. The servant's prayer for guidance is answered when he meets Rebekah at a well. Recognizing God's providence, Rebekah agrees to accompany the servant back to Isaac, whom she eventually marries. Abraham's life concludes in chapter 25, marked by his death and burial beside Sarah. The narrative provides a genealogy of Ishmael's descendants and mentions his death as well. These genealogical records serve to anchor the broader narrative within the historical context. The final portion of chapter 25 recounts the birth of Isaac and Rebekah's twin sons, Esau and Jacob. Esau, the older twin, sells his birthright to Jacob for a meal, indicating his disregard for its significance. This event sets the stage for future conflicts and complexities within the family. Chapters 17 to 24 of Genesis center on the fulfillment of God's promises, including the birth of Isaac and the continuation of the covenant with Abraham's descendants. Abraham's unwavering faith is highlighted through the binding of Isaac, showcasing his willingness to obey even in the most challenging circumstances. The narrative explores themes of faith, obedience, providence, and the complexities of human relationships. The introduction of Rebekah into the story paves the way for the next generation, revealing God's continued guidance and involvement in human affairs. Chapters 17 to 24 of Genesis delve into the lives of Abraham, Sarah, Isaac, and Rebekah, showcasing the fulfillment of God's promises and the interplay between faith, obedience, and divine providence. The stories of Isaac's birth, the binding of Isaac, and the marriage of Isaac and Rebekah further illustrate God's redemptive plan and the challenges faced by those called to be part of it.